what's this about for you? What are we doing? What's this whole adventure about social media and channels and saying hello to people and opening the door to people?
Well, I had my own personal experience feeling very lost and confused and unsure where to turn and feeling hopeless and feeling like giving up. And something that really helped me during that time was social media, because I could recognize there were other people feeling this same way and I wasn't crazy. um, so I guess we are coming on to say hello. You're not alone. There's this path. It doesn't have to be like it is the other way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a different way.
So ultimately, you're talking about connecting with people who are seeking something.
Seeking something more, looking around at the world, thinking like there's got to be more than this. This can't be it for us. Yeah, there's got to be something more.
And so what do you want to introduce to people? What do you want to let people know?
Well, personally, I've been introduced to this path. And in the year or so that I've been doing this self-reflection and self-inquiry and learning from you, my mental health is the best it's ever been. I'm more connected to reality than I've ever been. So I'm just seeing for myself how beneficial it is and how true it is that there is like a different way and a better way. We all don't have to be depressed and anxious and dealing with all this stuff alone.
So you found the Mystic Society.
Yeah, yes. I found a little mystic in a caravan. Yeah.
All right. Well, then I suppose, where do you want to start with this? Feel free to ask whatever you want to ask. Interview away.
Yes. Okay, so you were meditating a little while ago, and
like 20 minutes ago.
All the time. No, a couple of weeks back, and you basically asked me for a pen and paper, and you wrote down this metaphor of the hidden storehouse of wisdom seeds to kind of describe what Mystic Society is about. And yeah, can you go into that? Can you go into the hidden storehouse of wisdom seeds?
Well, first thing to know about it is it's a work in progress metaphor, which means I was contemplating at the time a way of painting a picture for people to understand the circumstances that they may be in, the circumstances of the current environment of, let's say, Western society, although just society in general. So, and so I came up with this vision of the hidden storehouse of wisdom seeds. So, okay, bear with me. So if you imagine a place where, or let's just say you live in a house and you wake up in the day and you're hungry. And so in this world where you live in your house, your options are you can go to the supermarket to get your food because you're hungry, you need to eat. And so you can go to the supermarket and buy your food, and you're buying your food from corporations who run the supermarkets, who profit from your hunger. They profit from your need to eat. They're not just going to give you the food because they are capitalists and they want to capitalize off of your need for food. And so, they're doing all the work they're doing in the background to gather the food, gather the resources, at a certain price, then they put a higher price on it and sell it to you, and they take a profit from it, and that's their model. And so, you can go to the supermarkets to eat. At the same time, you could wake up in the day and there's a church down the road who offers food freely to people. If you're hungry and you need to eat, all you have to do is walk to the church, and they do a sermon. They do a sermon, and they tell you a story about your life and where you're from, and they say, we know this about you because we read it in a book, and the book says this about this and that. And so, you listen to the sermon, and then at the end of it, they give you the food, and you can eat the food. And they say this food has come from the source of life, this God being. And so, you're in debt to him because he's fed you now, and you should come back when you're hungry again. And so, you can go that way if you want to as well. At the same time, there's a university down the road too. You could wake up, and the university does basically the same as the church, but you have to go there and learn about the various disciplines of whatever they're teaching. You learn their programming, and they give you food as well, and you can do that. At the same time, though, and this is where the hidden element comes in, is all of these places are getting their food from the farmers, actually. The church might believe that God created the farmers and the farmers are doing God's work, whatever. But at the end of the day, the farmers, who are the mystics, the spiritual guides, the spiritual teachers, who are cultivating their own land, cultivating their own food from seed. And you can go and talk to the farmer or get your food from the farmer, and the farmer might just ask something very simple like, could you just give me a hand with something at the farm that needs to be done, and then you can take as much food as you need. At the same time, they might already have an abundance of food, and they'll just give you what they have because it's just going to rot, it's just going to waste. They only need so much to support themselves and to support their family. So that would be like going to a spiritual teacher or a spiritual guide and asking for instruction, and then you do you serve them in some way, you help out, and they give you a bit of an instruction, and you take that food away and you go home and you feed yourself and you feed your family. So that's the next level, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's certainly better than the other options. But there is another level for those people who, when they go home, they're wondering, could I be a farmer? What is this whole thing about being a farmer? I'm very curious about how does he really grow this food, and how does it work when he plants a seed? What's actually happening down there in the ground? How does that seed turn into a broccoli or an apple tree? How does that happen? And so those people who we call they're mystically inclined, they're a deeper kind of human being. They go to the farmer and they express to the farmer their interest, their fascination with the way of farming. And so the farmer, being a wise farmer, knowing what he knows, recognizes the heart of that person, that he or she too may also be a farmer. They may have the capacity to become a farmer, at which point, if another farmer wakes up and starts cultivating a farm, well, now there's even more food to feed everybody, and okay, that's the best option for everybody, obviously. So what the farmer does this time is he says, okay, all right, let's go back to your house and have a look at where you want to build your farm. So you're the house, your body, your brain, your psychology, your personality, that's the house. So he comes back to the house with you, and you open the door, you let him inside, you welcome him in, and he takes you by the hand and he just slowly walks around your whole house. He's looking for something. You don't quite know what it is, but he's looking at the structure of your house and what's going on inside. Inevitably, in this place, he finds a corner away somewhere in the house, and there are boxes and boxes of things, old objects and old paperwork and things that were given to you by your parents, who were given things from their grandparents. And so there's just stacks and stacks of this conditioning, this personality that's built up over the years, your identity, your family name, your history, blah, 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 your culture, your identity, essentially. And so what the farmer does is, he sees it all. It's covered in cobwebs. It's ancient. Who knows how long it's been there for? He wipes it to the side, pushes it all to the side, and clears a space where all of the conditioning was, and behind the conditioning is a door, a little tiny storehouse, like a little cupboard about the size of a small fridge. And it's so dusty, in fact it's super hard to see. Only the farmer, because of his wisdom and he knows the process, he sees the door and he points it out to you and then tells you to, why don't you go and open it and have a look what's inside. It's a mystery at this point. You have no idea what's in there, but you're curious and you trust the farmer. You know this man, you've been receiving your food from him for a while. So you walk up to the door, you open it. It's not locked, it's open. You just open it yourself. And inside are all of these little tiny sealed glass jars full of all these different kinds of seeds, of apple trees, orange trees, different vegetables, all sorts of wonderful things are going on inside this cupboard. And so now that you know the storehouse is here, the farmer, you enter into a relationship with the farmer whereby you learn from him, and he helps you to understand the nature of the seasons, the different types of weather, when is a good time to plant, what is a good time to plant when, and once you've planted, the process that you have to do, that you have to go through, and that you have to cultivate in order to grow the food for yourself. And so you're on your own journey at that point. And you have the farmer down the road. He can't help you too much. He can't do too much for you because he has his own farm to look after. So the farmer is the mystic, the spiritual guide, a more realized or more awakened individual, if you want to put it that way. And so essentially, when it comes to the mystic society, how this reflects is mystics have been around for a very long time, and they tend to live on the outskirts of society. They're just doing their own thing. They wake up each day and they cultivate the energy of their own enlightenment. They cultivate the energy of awakening, and they live very harmoniously with their environment. They live very harmoniously with nature, and they don't like to get involved with too much chaos. So these are the farmers. They're out of the way. They're just doing their own thing, and they are growing a source, a means of sustenance for their whole life. And so this is the way it's been for a very, very long time. This is the way it still is today. But people who have been going to the supermarkets have started to notice, let's just say, some of the underhanded tactics that the supermarkets have been using to kind of give you plastic to eat, or, for example, profit. I don't know, let's just use a hypothetical example of something, let's say in this world that you're in, over the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, there's been a tremendous event that's taken place over the entire planet and left a massive amount of people destitute and suffering and struggling more than ever before. More people are in debt, more people are in mental health trauma, and yet the supermarkets have reported the most profit they've ever experienced in the whole history of their existence. Something's amiss, something's odd is going on somewhere in this hypothetical world. The religions too, the churches, more and more people are beginning to wonder, like, who are these people preaching these messages? Like, what do they really know? Religion has been around for a very, very long time on the planet, and would it have gotten a grip by now? If it had like a real message, if it had a real heart, a real substance to it, would it have already, in the last few thousand years in this hypothetical world, have already kind of dealt with the problem of suffering and chaos? And would people not be happier? Anyway, so more and more people are beginning to question the religion, and the education system is, let's just say, leading people down a very, very empty road, and more people are beginning to see that. And so, maybe more people are inquiring into the farmer, and maybe, I don't know if it's clear to you yet, but the food is the means for your life, the energy of your life, your psychology, your emotion, your motivation for life, your passion, the reason that you are here. When you wake up in the morning, how are you living? What are you living for? What are you driving towards? What are you cultivating? What kind of life are you cultivating? If the corporations are feeding you your cultivation, good luck, because you're a battery, and a battery is designed to be in a very specific kind of remote control. And if that battery doesn't fit inside that remote control, it gets abandoned, it gets tossed to the side, and a new battery is brought in to replace that one. So good luck being anything other than a battery if you go that way. Religion is helpful for some people, and in some ways it can be helpful at times. If it's done very, very sincerely with a very, very sincere heart. Some religions have a pure heart, and but there's a whole lot of crap that comes with that. And at the same time, it's a very limited way, it's a very confined way. They tend to promote a very specific dogma, which means you have to kind of subscribe and submit to this very particular way of living. And if you step outside of that, there'll be a tremendous punishment and torment, apparently, for you. Mm-hmm. Also, it's just a story in a book, like, how do you know whether or not that's true? The people who wrote that book, how are you ever going to know what they knew? So it's satisfactory for a limited intelligence, an intelligence that does not want to inquire beyond just being told what the answer is. So, okay, it's fine, go that way. But if that's not for you, maybe the universities don't work for you either. Maybe the educational system does not meet your internal need for something, for actual answers, actual experiential answers beyond just an intellectual understanding as well, beyond just knowledge. It's all book knowledge mostly. At least what you get introduced to is a lot of book knowledge. And then you have books, people who have absorbed the book knowledge arguing with other people who have absorbed other books' knowledge, and, war, chaos amongst themselves. Mm-hmm. And so to inquire into the way of the farmer means you want to get to know the soil for yourself. You want to uncover this hidden storehouse of wisdom seeds in your own house, in your own body and your own mind, in your own heart. And then you want to learn how to cultivate that for your own benefit, for the benefit of your family, and for the benefit of everyone around you. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if you get very good at being a farmer and you become very efficient at the energy, cultivating the right kind of energy, the food, you have more than you need. Very quickly, you'll have more than you need. And so you just give it away. You give it to people, mm-hmm. people who are hungry. Mm-hmm. And so that was the metaphor, a very long metaphor. It probably could be condensed down a bit and shortened down a bit, but it's just a way of helping people to understand, or to paint a picture of potentially where they may be at, what they may be feeling in their own life at the moment, and the fact, the reality, the absolute certainty that there is another way mm-hmm. to do this, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Mm-hmm. So that was that.
Yeah, there are farmers out there, and there are people trying to learn to be farmers too.
Exactly, and that's an option to absolutely anybody in the world. Yeah. Anybody who is in that position of wanting to inquire, feeling like they need to inquire, feeling like there must be something more, and who potentially has turned down the road of maybe a little bit of spirituality before, but has found the kind of surface level spirituality which is very confusing and full of crap, mm-hmm. and full of misdirection and full of distraction. Whereas true spirituality, you are the source of that. Your own mind, your own life, your own heart is the source of true spirituality. And so when you connect with a means of spirituality, a method, a form of spirituality that just encourages you to turn inward and look into what you think to be yourself, you're on the path. Mm-hmm. And then obviously you're learning about things like presence, mindfulness, awareness, cultivating the energy of presence. If you go down the road of a real school. Yeah. And so, the Mystic Society at this point is a label. We've put together, like, I guess, a little bit of a brand, which is what this is all about here, all of this kind of social media stuff. But the real Mystic Society is not ours. No. We didn't make that up. It's been here for as long as civilization has existed, for as long as society has existed. Mystics have been around. But they tend to be on the edge, the outskirts of a society and up to now, because the society hasn't been too bad. It's been the ways that it's been. There's been wars, there's been chaos, but there's always been a way out. of the various kind of countries and the various kind of little bubbles of economy as they were operating on the planet. But now we are a global community, we are a global economy because of the emergence of technology. And so through this emergence of technology, mystics are beginning to emerge and rise to the surface, because the energy of the present moment here on this planet is ramping up and shifting drastically and dramatically, more and more so. And so that results in various manifestations of chaos throughout life, throughout the world for people. And so more and more people begin to wonder what the hell exactly is going on. And at the same time, without getting too deep into it, we're noticing more and more people are noticing more and more of the chaos in all areas of life. It's everywhere. Throughout the economy, throughout the social, the structure of society, the chaos is becoming more and more obvious. I'm using the word chaos because I want to avoid more targeted, specific words that reflect insanity, deep insanity, and almost like a corrupted or kind of evil insanity.
Yes.
So anyway, we don't need to go too much into that. Those who know, who are connected and are connecting with this, will totally understand what we're hinting at here, what we're pointing at. So that's fine. But the point being that what's happening now is a community of mystics, and those who are mystically inclined is beginning to form more consciously, more intimately connected through technology in public, in the open, for other people who are more mystically inclined to connect to sync up with, to be on the same page as. And so the Mystic Society, in terms of this brand, is just a label that, let's just say, puts a nice kind of ring around what's happening for people, you know?
And why? Why are we going down the road of trying to form a mystic society? Like,
Because we bloody well have to.
we don't have a choice.
There is a need. There is a need, an absolute need. Beyond, I mean, I need it. If I speak from a total personal point of view, I need it.
Yes.
You can speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, we're coming into a time where, we're connecting all around the world, but we're also coming into a time where our society is trying to go cashless and these sorts of things. So very soon we're potentially going to lose the ability to go to the supermarket.
Sure. It becomes more and more streamlined. Yeah, the system of control, the means of controlling people becomes more and more. There are less and less options to deviate.
So you go down the road of finding the farmers, connecting the farmers,
keeping the farmers alive. Yeah, because they're
alive.
Without going too much into it, in this hypothetical world that we're talking about here, in this hidden storehouse, some of these organizations may be trying to suppress the farmers and create artificial foods, so there's no longer a need for the farmer. And then where do the people go to get their food? Because there is no other source. If they don't know about the hidden storehouse of mystic seeds, wisdom seeds, where do they go?
Yeah.
So there's an absolute need for it in terms of the why. You can look at life and you can very easily see the process of evolution that's been happening, the process. And when I say life, I mean the human. I'm not talking about the bigger picture of life, because that's been going on, evolving its own way since before time. But from the human, with regards to the human realm, the human experience, we have reached a point where humanity, a lot of humanity is like rubbing sleep out of its eyes, just waking up, just starting to open its eyes, the sleep, it's waking up. And so I won't go into too much into, there are some elements of this life that want you with your eyes closed because they profit from your dreams. But that's not us. We're not interested in that. We're just talking about having your eyes open and rubbing the sleep from your eyes so that you can keep your eyes open, so that you can stay awake. And when you are awake, what you see is the real process of life unfolding, and there is a remembering of a true identity behind the ego. Society up to now has been absolutely dominated by, and still is absolutely dominated by, an ego, a self-centric collective ego people chasing what is at the heart of this modern economy, which is profit. And see, capitalism isn't in and of itself a bad thing, but one of the problems with capitalism is that there's room for error. That means I can wake up today and cultivate a great skill that's everybody needs, and offer that and capitalize on that. The fact they don't know how to do it, and I'll teach them and I'll earn money from that. Okay, that's not a problem. I'm just going to take what I need. I only need to earn enough money to sustain myself. At the same time, though, in that same model, I can run over there by myself on my own, and when nobody's looking, and I can steal all the diamonds out of the ground and all the gold out of the ground, and I can gather as much of it as possible and hide it all, and then I can sell that to everyone, not telling everybody where that is. So I can be a selfish arsehole as well in that model, and I can still profit by doing that because people want gold and diamonds. Okay, so anyway, we don't need to go down that road, but there is an ego at the heart of the current economy, and it is greed and a kind of corruption, and it is one that needs to be overcome. Individually, we go on seeking. No, individually, we walk a path that slowly but surely helps us to overcome this impulse of greed within us, this impulse of self-centeredness, and it transforms our life and begins to turn us, the spirit, the true identity, towards everybody else, as opposed to towards a self-centered ego, which is our image of ourself. And so as a collective, it's time for us now to be having the conversations and to be gaining insight into the process that leads us from collective egotistical living into spiritually focused orientation. The focus of the ego perceives itself to have a lack, which means it's missing something, and then it looks to the world and to everybody else to fill that void and takes that from them. So other people are left with less, but the ego gains more. It thinks it gains more.
Instead, we go down the road of people looking within and seeking to find out what they truly are, which is what?
So the spiritual perspective, yeah, the opposite point of view of the ego.
Yeah.
The spiritual point of view is, I have everything because I am one with everything. I live extremely simply, so I don't need much. And so, because from the internal point of view, there's no sense of individualness, there's no sense of ego, there is only a sense of already completeness. And so that already completeness can serve the rest of life. Are there other beings out there who perceive themselves to have a lack? Can I give those people? Can I serve those people? Can I give of myself because I feel so complete? Can I help those people? Which is the opposite perspective of the ego. So that comes about having contacted the spirit of life, which is your true identity. That ability comes about when you've transcended the ego, risen above it, and seen through it to see the interconnectedness and the oneness of all life. Love lives there, and from love you then live in service of the rest of life. And so, okay, that's wonderful, but the process of moving from the ego into the host or the immortal spirit, the true identity, there is a process to that, and that's the science of mysticism. That's what mysticism does. That's the service that the mystic society offers to the rest of, call it popular society if you want to, whatever, everybody else. Yeah. Does that answer the question? Maybe? I don't know. Possibly.
Yes. Okay, so do you want to go into love-based economy, or do you want to go straight into these questions?
Well, love-based economy is essential. It's an essential part of the mystic society, because the mystic society is the name, but love-based economy is how it functions. So the mystic society is what it is, but the love-based economy is the heart, the beating heart. And so a love-based economy is essentially exactly what I just described. Once you have contacted the source of your own mind, the source of your own heart, the source of your own life, which is pure love, which means you see that that's what you are. At the very deepest level, you are that. In fact, everything is a manifestation of love. And only a wrong view of what you are results in that love becoming corrupted and tainted to serving an apparently individual self and ego. And so a love-based economy is one whereby there is no profit, there is no personal individual profit. There is a true sense, or rather a sense of the true interconnectedness of all life, and a true care and a true desire to help each other and support each other in life, to be happy, to live freely, to live without limitation, without restriction, without fear, without the cause of war, to live without ego. And so the love-based economy functions that way. One body wakes up each day and looks at the world and sees what is needed. Are people unhappy for some reason? Is there a need somewhere that I, as the individual, can fulfill, can help with? Are those people suffering? Can I help them? Are they hungry? Can I find them food? Can I grow food so that they don't ever get hungry again? Are those people ill? Can I care for them? Or can I find a nurse who will care for them? Can I find a doctor who will care for them? The love-based economy, there's no question in that for profit. I won't see sick people over there in the corner and then say, okay, I can earn money off those. If I find the answer to their illness and then I create a cure and then I charge them for... See how much self-centeredness is in that?
Yeah.
Just in that hypothetical, working through that.
Crazy.
Whereas the immediate fact of people suffering, there's something in me that just wants to help. I'll go over straight away. In fact, it's magnetized. You're drawn to the problem, fix the problem, help it. And the way that karma works is they are you. It's your own energy that you're helping. You're helping your own energy because you are them. And so you as the so-called individual are always taken care of. Of course, the people who help you, the people who you help, are so grateful to you that if they ever see you with a frown on your face, they'll want to help you too. So the love-based economy, it's massive. It's functions on the individual level, but at the same time, we're talking about the collective going forward. Let me talk to the enlightened, or rather deep meditative teachers, deeply meditative nurses and doctors and mechanics and lawyers. And, okay, the lawyers is sort of a slightly different domain because you're still dealing with an old system when you go that way. But anyway, a new way of living is emerging, the heart of which is a love-based economy. And so these people, and when I say deep meditators, because people who meditate deeply have deeper insight into what is real and what is not, meaning they have seen more through the ego and they have connected more with that which is not the ego, spirit of life, truth. And so people who have that ability, who have cultivated that ability, are the ones who are going to come together and are coming together and who need to come together and who want to come together in order to contemplate this new way of living. How is it structured? What does it look like? So it functions. The reason I say it's massive is because eventually you are going to see established communities and societies where the whole system is love-based economy. That's how they live there. But for now, for those who are wanting to migrate from the current model of economy that they're in, profit-based, it starts with them as individuals learning to connect, one, with their own heart, the truth of their own condition, and then looking to the rest of the world to connect with other people who are doing the same thing, looking to connect and wanting to open their heart and connect with life, reality, spirit of life, peace, end of ego. Those people making these connections and coming together to support each other, to initiate the process of the love-based economy in fact, in happening right now, occurring already. And so, yeah, it works on an individual level, but it's connected to a collective development, a collective evolution.
There's a place for everyone and no one will go without.
Absolutely no one will go without, but it is fundamentally essential that each one learns to overcome their own ego. Because that is the collective evolution towards no ego, a way of living without ego. Or if another way people want to say, well, you need the ego. Okay, yes, but you have to see that the ego is a dream. The sense of an individualness with a personal history and a personal past is fundamentally unreal. It is a dream. So you can dream the dream while knowing that it is a dream. Call this a lucid dream if you want to. And so, yes, you can still operate the ego. It's a case of master and subject, master and slave. The ego must be a slave to the spirit of life.
Mm-hmm.
It is servant to the spirit of life. That is its function. If it's the other way around, well, you have an inverted pentagram, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the wrong, that person would be facing the wrong way around.
Yeah, all you have to do is look at the society that
Right,
we're in,
we've done
see
that. We have
where that
chased
leads.
We have chased materialism. We have served the ego. And this is why people are suffering so much.
Mm-hmm.
But that now leads us to the tipping point. It's perfect. We are exactly where we need to be. But now it's time to tip the scale towards the spirit collectively. So, yes, nobody will be left out. But the part of the challenge and part of the difficulty, but part of the great journey ahead of us is we get together and we start to look into this ego. What is it? This is where the mystics step in. Oh, you want to know what the ego is? It turns out I've been watching that for the last 17 years of my life very, very intensely in this body. And there are some things that I have come to see about it. Would you like to hear what they are? It might help you to see it yourself. Also, at the same time, I have uncovered, so a mystic might say, I have uncovered these various particular practices, or my own teacher, who is also a mystic, from the lineage of mystics who have been part of society, humanity for thousands upon thousands of years, have these very specific methods and very specific techniques of mindfulness, awareness, energy cultivation, physical discipline, which crystallize a very, very strong presence, a very, very strong mindfulness. And in that space, it is possible to see the ego and to see not the ego, to see through the ego. And so anyway, the mystics step in as a kind of guide, as a father figure to society and say, let's all go this way. What do you think? Mm-hmm. How do you guys feel about coming this way? Is this the way you want to go? Because this is the way I'm going anyway. You can come along, it's fine. Mm-hmm. But there is a whole process to that. You know, there is a method of detaching from the self-centered perspective, of identifying with the body and the ego, transcending it, and then reconnecting with the spirit of life, which we all share, the heart of love and life. And so, yeah, I don't know how I got onto that, but
no, that's good. That
probably your fault.
No, that leads me into one of the questions of what would you say to someone who wants to approach the path and move away from the life they're living in, the society they're living in?
Somebody who wants to.
Yeah, somebody who
wants to move
listens
away
to this, likes the sound of it. They want to approach the path and move away. But maybe they're ready to move away, maybe they're not quite ready.
All right, so it's always important, ultimately, to know the specific situation. So it really depends exactly what to do, what steps to take specifically, given your exact circumstances. But in general, if somebody is wanting to, let's say, begin to inquire, it requires a number of things. One, if you want to go deep, like if you want to really inquire, you have to begin to look into what meditation is. You have to begin to look into your own experience of life deeply, which is meditation, watching, a deep and powerful watching. At the same time, though, like that's something very specific that you can do anywhere, in any circumstance, in any place, in any environment. But there's one element that we tend to encounter with regards to people in the modern times who are beginning to inquire more deeply, is that the life that they have cultivated for themselves, being one of conditioning. So their conditioned personality has built up their life so far. And as they begin to inquire into meditation, their mind, their mind begins to operate in a way where it's intending to ascend or to rise above that conditioning. So a simple way to put this is that the life around you may not fully support your inquiry. The people around you, the circumstances that you are in, may make it very difficult to become an observer and to take a step back and to begin to practice deep meditation practices and deeply mystical practices. One example of that may be somebody who has a controlling mother. Well, if you decide in your heart that you want to begin to inquire into very deep meditation practices, where you're going to sit and watch intensely and lock yourself away in isolation in order to do this, your controlling mother might freak out and begin to knock on your door every 10 minutes, wondering why you're now locking yourself in your room all the time. And they get worried about you. And because they are not meditators and they don't understand why you're doing what you're doing really, this is just one example, but your boss could be the same, no, I need you to come into 40 or 50 hours of work a week because we need you here and we need all of your energy to sustain the job that you're doing. And so now that you want to regain that energy and begin to cultivate it and direct it in a more conscious way, so your job could become a hindrance. So this is the reason why the specifics are important.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, the courage to begin to detach from the ego of society and begin to stand in awareness, in a strong mindfulness, in a strong presence, and the courage to begin to look inward into the nature of your own body and the nature of mind and the nature of energy, and to begin to cultivate that energy, the courage to cultivate discipline and determination and consistency. At the same time, connecting with mysticism, the reality of mysticism, which is well and truly alive here on the planet, which society in general is not interested in. Most people, a lot of people, aren't interested in true, deep cultivation. And so, to begin to connect with real mysticism, whether it's online or in person, reaching out to people, meeting other cultivators, and that's a great word to contemplate over. Cultivation, cultivators, those who are looking to cultivate the energy of life, to cultivate realization, to cultivate insight, and to cultivate wisdom, and to cultivate our collective evolution. Mm-hmm. To begin to connect with those people and grasp onto them in the same way that you would normally grasp onto all of the other various distractions and egotistical environments and people who are consumed by egotistical ways of living. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that would potentially be it, I think. Was it an answer to your question?
Yeah, it was.
There are many more things that can be useful as well, but they're almost infinite to label them all. Mm-hmm. And that's why, to give a generalized answer, to begin to look into meditation, begin to move away from egotistical activities and people and forms of energy and forms of influence, and to begin to replace those with spiritual and mystical means and mystical sources of influence. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's kind of a generalized way. If you have anything more specific, you have a very specific problem that needs a very specific answer, you're going to have to reach out and explain what your specific circumstances are, so that a very precise, tactical assessment can be made of your situation. Mm-hmm. And then you put that into effect. Mm-hmm. It's a way out of whatever pit you have found yourself in. Well, there are deep pits, there are shallow pits, there are slippery pits, there are sticky pits, there are invisible pits, and there are pits where there are people standing around the top of the pit, keeping you in the pit, making you afraid to get out of it. Anyway, there's lots of different kinds of pits, and so you need a different technique or a different strategy or a different approach to get out of a sticky pit than you do a slippery one, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's that.
Okay, next question. How do you secure a foundation within the path when dealing with a deeply traumatized ego or personality?
Interesting. Well, attachment to the self-identity comes about, no, rather, let's just say, believing yourself to be the ego comes about in the exact same way for everyone. The mind is the same. Mind, one life, functioning everywhere, all at once. And so the process that it goes through to fall into the wrong belief, the wrong view that it is the individual is exactly the same for everyone. Everybody's in that same pit. Everybody's in a pit. A pit. Everybody's in an armpit. A stinky armpit. But what's going on inside the pit is unique to every individual. Some people will be very similar. And it doesn't matter what other people are experiencing. What's important is to know the nature of how your body and brain and conditioning is operating, and then to connect with mind behind that. So if we're talking about a deeply traumatized ego, that would be the kind of person who would be commonly recognized as having trauma, what the term is trauma, whether that be anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, psychosis, depression, deep depression, anxiety, agoraphobia. I said anxiety, didn't I already? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, somebody who has a deeply disturbed mental health condition, which is a huge barrier to their cultivation, which it isn't, but it may seem that way. Regardless of what's going on inside the conditioning, inside the personality, it has nothing to do with you, the true identity behind it. However, in the same way that watching a movie about Buddhist monks meditating in the mountains of Tibet is very peaceful to watch that, the way that it's been made, and to watch a war movie about the Vietnam War and the horrors of that type of environment. You are in the theatre watching. You're not in the war, and you're not in the mountains either. You're watching. You're the observer of the movie. But one is much more pleasant, and I know which one I would rather go to watch if I had to go and choose to watch a movie. So anyway, if your conditioning is warlike or traumatic and traumatized, be very gentle with yourself. Be very kind to yourself. Learn to cultivate a kindness and a gentleness, knowing that your particular conditioning is maybe a bit more extreme than somebody else's, other people's. And so, also again, it's very important to know the exact details of what somebody is experiencing with regards to how to help them. But learning to meditate, learning to connect with an honesty within yourself is very important. If you have a strong ego that blinds you a lot, that rises up a lot, that creates drama a lot, that causes conflict a lot, that's very, very fearful, very anxious, it's very sensitive, it becomes essential to cultivate an environment that's going to take that into account. You have to know that about yourself, otherwise it tricks you, your ego. It tricks you, it gets you, it maintains control, it dominates you. And so this need for a kind of regular honesty. You know, I can admit that I'm unhappy. I can admit that I'm still experiencing anxiety, that I still experience depression, that I still lose my shit, that I still get angry, I still experience immense fear. starting with that kind of honesty is not to dwell in those things, but from that kind of honesty is a fertile soil in which the seeds of truth, or the seeds of transcendence, the seeds of development and progress, real progress, can be planted in that honesty. And so somebody like that, I would encourage to be prepared for the long haul of cultivation. Don't expect to go anywhere in a week or a month even. If you've got a very strong kind of conditioning built through a lot of trauma, a lot of fears, a lot of anxieties, and they have dwelled in your mind for a long time, they could be difficult to uproot. But they're still the same. It's still just conditioning. And so you're going to learn through meditation to completely step out of that conditioning and observe it. But with it being so volatile and so intense, it's like the war movie. You're still experiencing the chaos that's going on inside the body and the psychology. So you learn to navigate the psychology gently, slowly, introduce yourself to more peaceful forms of living, more peaceful environments, spiritual people, spiritual knowledge even, books, podcasts, movies that help cultivate the realm of peace so that you can transition from war to peace in the psychology, in the conditioning. You yourself will minimize the trauma and the effect that the trauma has on the psychology while you're learning through your mystical cultivation of meditation to totally step out of it and crystallize the being out of it. So that's, somebody like that would be encouraged to kind of make contact, keep contact. Let's come up with a plan. Let's come up with a format whereby you can keep walking forward each day in a space of cultivation, maintaining connection to us so that we can keep checking in on you, making sure you're okay. And you have an anchor to us. If you're losing your shit, your psychology is becoming psychotic, you've got somebody to reach out to who can help you relax, help you see through it. In the same way that a mental health institution would work, in a very materialist, three-dimensional sense, there is the same kind of approach for a particularly a particularly disturbed ego. In that's what monastic environments or mystical environments are for. But you don't have to necessarily go to a physical place to live there, although you can. If you stay at home, you have to bring the environment to you, which means making sure your environment is structured the right way, that only certain types of influences are in your environment, knowing that your brain is going to be conditioned by those influences. You have to look at all of this stuff. And that's why I say somebody like that, be prepared for the long haul, and we'll get to grips with this in time. Slowly but surely, you are guaranteed to make progress each day, and the realizations come. Like you yourself alone, you know how long it takes for some of these realizations to take hold. A year in, over a year in, and you really begin to relax. And so you have to kind of bear with some of these more difficult, turbulent states or emotions or experiences, the conditioning. You have generations upon generations of conditioning and psychology to transcend. And the stepping out of that has an effect. My old teacher had a wonderful analogy. If you are sitting inside a room full of confetti that's blowing around all over the place, and you're in there and you're trying to understand what's going on. This is you, your brain, the room. You're inside the brain. There's confetti all over the place. Thoughts, emotions, perceptions, ideas, whatever. And so you're beginning to want to know what's going on in here. What on earth is all of this stuff? So you're running around like a crazy person trying to grasp it all. Maybe you're even trying to make it stop, but you're running around trying to push it down. And as you do that, you create a gust that blows up loads more, So the answer obviously is to stop, become completely still in this room, and the confetti begins to fall. But some of the gusts of wind that have been blowing around in that room for a long time are stronger than others. Sometimes they die down for a little while. and then they just seem to come out of nowhere again, like emotions that come out of nowhere, apparently. And so anyway, while you're standing in this room learning to stay still, be patient and understand and be prepared to learn to stand still, no matter how much you're moving and how hard it might be. Take your time. I mean, you're not going anywhere, you know? So yeah, that would be a few of the things, I guess, to point at for somebody who has a particularly traumatized personality. But nobody is beyond help. Absolutely nobody who has the capacity and the will and the desire to dedicate just time and energy. We call it right effort, putting the right effort in. It's one of the fundamental elements of the mystical lifestyle, is the right effort. And obviously the opposite of that is the wrong effort. You can put lots of effort into lots of places that don't do anything for you, spiritually speaking. But if you're putting the right effort in a little bit at a time each day, it cannot not work. It has to work. It's, the laws of physics dictate that it will have an effect. And so you just have to be determined, stick with it, maintain contact with your guides, your teachers, your friends, your supports, and transformation happens.
Yeah, it does take time.
Lots of things take time. All right. Anything else for this I guess, introductory hello there?
Well, we are in the process of creating a bit of a free program for people. By
We
the
are.
time this podcast goes out, we will have released it.
Yes. So the idea for that is physical, mental, and spiritual discipline, practice, insight, and I guess a little bit of knowledge and instruction around those three core parts of you: your body, your brain, and the spiritual element is beginning to connect with the energy of the present moment and beginning to cultivate the right view, the frame. So the frame, it gets a little bit complex here because, first of all, it starts out, the view is being shared with you from somebody else who can see it. The view from a certain level is being explained to you so that you can begin to gravitate towards that viewpoint yourself, right? So it's explained to you. But there are means with which you climb the mountain and get to the same viewpoint. And so spirituality starts out as you learning about the truth and beginning to cultivate the ability to maintain a more clear perspective on life. That's what mindfulness is for. And mindfulness contains a tremendous amount of energy. Presence contains a tremendous amount of energy, which is cultivated through various mystical disciplines. So that's how spiritual discipline starts. After a while, once you start to remember the truer identity of life, you realize that actually spirituality is to do with all of life. And it's to do with all of the other beings too that are here. And the process that life goes through, the process of evolution that life goes through, which is not limited to you as an individual. But that's kind of deeper stuff. You need a little bit of that because that's what keeps you pointing in the right direction. You also need to learn how to begin to cultivate the energy of presence safely, because it's possible to do it unsafely. At the same time, you have to learn how to begin to take care of your body and gain insight into your body and cultivate a fit, healthy, strong body, because that's your vehicle that you're living in here. That's what you're driving. And at the same time, there is the brain, the mental element, the psychological element, learning how to navigate, whether it's mental health problems or even just more generally, how to focus your thoughts in a direction you want them to go, and how to overcome limiting thoughts, and how to program in specific psychological behaviors, how to overcome certain emotions, how to cultivate certain emotions, how to rise above negative emotions, and how to utilize positive and powerful emotions. So this is the education that comes. This is why it's a long-term process. For anyone really wanting to fully get to grips with this, there is a lot to see and there is a lot to do. And there's a lot you can do. So what we are considering at the moment is creating, in fact, what we're doing and what will be done by the time this podcast is viewable is a very essential and basic introductory practice for physical cultivation, mental cultivation, and spiritual cultivation. Essentially what this looks like is a kind of physical workout, because we do martial arts as part of our core, one of the core elements of our discipline, Kung Fu and martial arts, various elements of personal training. So we will, introduce a very basic and essential kind of physical discipline for your body, which will have an effect on your mental and emotional state anyway, but also a very basic and essential introduction to self-hypnosis, so influencing your own brain, your own thoughts, combined with meditation. So those are two different things. Visualization and self-hypnosis is different from meditation. But you do the visualization stuff and the self-hypnosis stuff to influence your brain, which then affects the things that you're doing and your thoughts that you're having and your emotions and the way they're operating. Then you do meditation to begin to step out of that, because most people identify with the brain and the body. And it's not you, but take care of it. The same way that your vehicle isn't you, but take care of it because you're driving it. To cultivate this true realization of, actually, awareness is behind all of this movement, this body and this brain, mind, and to begin to stand in that place and connect with it, and then maintain the authority, the point of that position, of that authority. It gets very hard to speak when you step into that place, but that's meditation. That's what meditation is for. Meditation is the way into that, which leads you to realization about the nature of spirituality. And so what you can do is to learn how to maintain this watching, is begin to step into the energy of the present moment and begin to abide in the energy of the present moment, which is yoga, qigong, various forms of like tai chi, breathing exercises, because you have to be very present to maintain those. So what we're going to do is put together a very essential and basic little program for people, physical, mental, spiritual, which, you can connect up with.
Yeah, we kind of want to start pumping things out to help straight away.
Yeah, and then for people who really want to, because that's going to be very general for a larger audience, for many people, but people who want more specific or more intense means of cultivation or more support or more ongoing support, they can reach out to us and initiate contact. And there's ways to do that via all the social media platforms, have either emails or contact links. We have a blog, which we're beginning to cultivate alongside this, which is something to check in, a bit of inspiration, a little bit of reading every day or every few days. I'm not quite sure yet how often things are going to be put out on that, but we'll see. And so people can connect up that way. Also, however you're watching this, I'm sure there's or listening to it, I'm sure there's some way to comment or something like that. So you can reach out to us in the comments, say hello. So yeah, that's happening too, isn't it?
Yep, it's all happening.
All right. Anything else? Is that what we're doing for now?
Yep, that's what we're doing for now. Yeah, so we'll have down in the description of whatever platforms is being watched on, we will have all our links to social medias, for our emails. So yeah, reach out, let us know what you need, because we want to be providing content that helps you guys. So, like the people listening who, really want this, really need this.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and we do hope we will see you around. Goodbye for now.